welcome in to Texans today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and we got a pretty good show on tap for you today. A little bit different than what I normally do with the latest news and rumors going on around the Texans. I found a very interesting article from PFF, and this is the reason why you hit that sub button here to Texans today, because this PFF article is behind a paywall. You don't know what it's going to say, but I got you. I got you covered with the nitty gritty, with all the details from that PFF article around the Texans draft class. We'll break that down on today's show. Before we do, though, this coming in from Aaron Wilson, some news to break down before we get into everything. The Texans made a couple roster moves today. They re-signed Miles Bryant, who, if you remember, started a little bit at the tail end of last year whenever some, cornerback injuries, more namely to the nickel corner position, really came into play. They also signed another defensive back in Keedrain Callaghan, which means they had to release two players. They released Jerome Carvin and Kingsley Jonathan. So a couple roster moves to break down before we get into the meat and potatoes of today's show. But before I break this down, I need to know from you, because I want your honest answers only. What grade did you give the Texans 2025 draft class? I gave it a B. Let me know what you gave it down in the comment section. And has it changed over the course of the past month or so after the draft? Because, it is interesting to see how your perception of some of these guys changes. Very beginning instant reaction of these guys. You do a little bit more homework. You see a little bit more of how they fit onto this team. And you're like, you know what? I actually really like that selection. Let me know down in the comment section, what grade did you give this Texans draft? As we get into today's program, where, like I said, this PFF article was centered around basically which team got the most experienced draft class from the 2025 NFL draft. And they used a couple metrics to kind of show this, and they initially ranked it on which team had the most snaps per their draft class, basically adding up all the snaps that all your draftees had during this or during their collegiate careers and adding them all up. This is where the Texans laid out. And you're like, okay, 6, they're up there, but they're definitely not, in the top 3. So, Jeremy, why are you, talking about this on today's video? Why are you saying that the draft class looks even better than before? Well, it's because that was basically all the snaps together. But then whenever I averaged it out per drafted player, so I took the amount of snaps and then divided it by the amount of guys selected in that draft class, the Texans actually came up second. And it's funny, the top 3, all AFC South teams: Jags, Texans, Titans, 1, 2, and 3. And I think this is important because, maybe with the Jags a little bit, but for the Texans, they need instant impact guys. They need guys that can help us this year really contend, because we have gotten back-to-back years to that divisional round, so close to, getting over the hump of the Kansas City Chiefs, getting to the franchise's very first AFC championship game, but we need a little bit more help, and we really needed a lot of these guys who got drafted this year to instantly step in and make an impact their rookie seasons, make an impact year one. And I don't know about you, I trust guys who have done it a lot in the past, who have a lot of reps playing in, playing at the collegiate level at least. And that's what the Texans did with this draft. And I know y'all all are really focusing more on the right side of this picture, the WAA, and those green, different shades of green. Well, this is exactly what that stands for per PFF. WAA stands for wins above average. It's a metric used to evaluate the performance of college football players, specifically in the context of the NFL draft. WAA quantifies how many wins a player is worth above the average college football player. WAA is designed to help evaluators assess player performance in a more objective and data-driven way. It's a standardized metric that allows for cross-positional valuation and can help predict future value at both the player and team levels. I found this very interesting. I found this stat very, you look at all this stuff, and a lot of it is, you're just projecting. This is just your bias on this player. You might be a Texas fan. You might be a Texas A&M fan. You might have a mom or dad that went to Ohio State, and you see those guys a little bit more fondly than other programs. Or you might have your Alabama glasses on and be like, well, this dude went to Alabama, so he must be good, right? This kind of takes that out of it and shows, hey, just by the numbers, just by the raw data, how are these guys projected to do in year one? So I'm going to break down the WAA numbers for the Texans and really just talk about how that's going to help them project into their rookie seasons and help the Texans for their 2025 season as well. If you made it this far on the video, please turn on those notifications. I have my bosses breathing down my neck and they're like, Jeremy, Texans is doing pretty well, but at the end of the day, we are on the back end of Chat Sports with the amount of notifications that we have on this channel. So I need your help. 1, hit that sub button. 2, hit the notification bell. And 3, select the all option. That's all you got to do. Help me out and help this channel. Now, as I go back to this picture once again, I wanted to show you this one more time to just let you see the WAA rankings per these players. And the darker the green, that's the better it is. You want a higher number, closer to 1, the closer to 1.0, the better. And from this, I have talked about this plenty of times on the channel, and I agree with this statistic in that I think Higgins could make the most instant impact for your Houston Texans. He had the highest WAA score out of anybody in this draft class, and for good reason, right? He's a big, lanky target. He doesn't drop the football. A lot of people compare him to, a Nico Collins, which, in my opinion, is a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. So I really think he can step in day one, be a starter for this team, be an impact on the offensive side of the football, and be another guy that can really help CJ Stroud, another guy who had a good WAA, his teammate, and current teammate with the Texans as well, Jaylen Noel. He's a guy who, funny enough, Jayden Higgins was compared to Nico Collins. Jaylen Noel was compared to a Christian Kirk-style receiver. And I've also heard a little bit of a Steve Smith comparison with Jaylen Noel, which I don't want to get there too far too quick, right? But I think both these guys are going to step up in a big way because going into last year with Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, and Nico Collins, everybody thought Texans had the best wide receiver room in the NFL. They're set to go. It did not end up like that. Stephon Diggs got hurt. Tank Dell got hurt. Nico Collins got hurt at all different points in the season, and we never saw a cohesive unit with all of the guys on this offense. You bring in 2 young guys, 2 guys who have a ton of experience in college, who played together, who know how to work off each other, and I think that's going to instantly impact this Texans offense alongside Nico Collins and a Christian Kirk to really help CJ Stroud in year 3. Another guy who I've given a lot of praise and a lot of Texans fans did not like to pick when it originally happened of Woody Marks in round 4. The Texans traded up to get the USC running back. He had a pretty high WAA score as well. And I think that's because, Joe Mixon's going to be the workhorse. He's going to be the guy who is getting the, bulk of the carries for the Houston Texans. But in passing situations, Woody Marks is the best receiving back from this year's draft class. By the numbers, when you look at it, when you look at his statistics from Mississippi State and playing at USC this past season, he was the best running back in college football when it came to catching the ball out of the backfield. And that is going to be an instant impact for this Texans offense as well, in that the Texans dealt with the blitz last year, and they were really, really, it really hurt CJ Stroud not being able to get the ball out and not having a receiving back in the backfield. Woody Marks changes that immediately. You have Joe Mixon, you hand him the ball off, but in passing situations, as your, if you play Madden, the person you would set as your third down back, that's Woody Marks. He's that guy, and I think his rookie season, he's going to be able to show that. Another guy, instant impact, Jaylin Smith, who he surprised me. 3rd round pick. A lot of people were shocked by the selection of Jaylin Smith, but the numbers for PFF, they looked pretty good. And I think he's going to be somebody who, if he shows, he can play at this level, if he shows the coaching staff, hey, I'm ready for this moment, I could see Jimmy Ward being dispensable this offseason. Because I think he immediately steps up and is your backup nickel behind Jalen Petrie and is somebody who you can implement, because the Texans love to run a 4-2-5 defense. Only 2 linebackers on the field, 5 defensive backs. And with that, you might need to, switch guys out from here or there to help them get a little bit of a breather from now and then. And in that case, I think he can help out and be a guy to help out with Jaylen Petrie, who has had some injury issues, but also on special teams immediately. I think Jalen Smith will be able to help out this Texans team immediately. The one drawback from this article that I saw whenever I was looking at the WAA scores was Aireontae Ersery. He did not have that high of a score, in my opinion. And all the talk has been around the Texans offensive line and who's going to start. Is it going to be Ersery, who you drafted in round 2 out of Minnesota this past year? Is it your second round pick from last year, Blake Fisher, who you drafted out of Notre Dame? You signed Trent Brown. You also got Cam Robinson. You signed him. You have Titus Howard. I mean, there's a lot of different ways this Texans offensive line could go. And the thought process is, I want to try to get Ersery out there, but what if they don't want to have him start immediately? What if they want him to get more reps and, be a backup tackle, kind of like how Blake Fisher was at the start of last offseason going into this year? That's the one drawback from this. But the overarching theme of this is the Texans got out of the 2025 NFL draft with instant impact guys who are going to help this squad, guys who are going to help this team in year 1, and that's exactly what Houston needed. Because back-to-back years, as I've mentioned, we made it to the divisional round. We've won the AFC South. That's good and dandy, but we're ready for the next step. We're ready for guys to help us get over the hump. And for that to happen, we need our draft picks to hit, and we need them to make impacts in year 1. And with most of the guys the Texans got, I think that is the case. That's all I have for you on today's show, folks. If you want to continue the conversation, have anything you want to ask me about around the Houston Texans, you can hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs. My DMs are always open. And as I talked about earlier in the show, hit that subscribe button. We are the #1 Texans channel here on YouTube. If you want to be part of the best Texans community on the internet, all you got to do, go hit that sub button. It's 100% free. Unlike ESPN Plus, unlike PFF, I don't make you pay to look at my content. It's 100% free.